Hello, my night divided group. Okay, we are going to listen to chapter 41. We left off with how Fritz went to go speak to Claudia, hoping that maybe she would come with them, and she chose to not. And so he's like a little heartbroken. Fritz is. Fritz is young. He'll find somebody else. Okay, here we go. Oh, one second.
Hello.
All right, chapter 41. Postponement brings danger. German proverb. Those joining the military were supposed to report for service first thing on the morning of their appointed days. However, since some boys throughout East Germany had to travel into Berlin, they would be accepted at the intake station throughout the day. Fritz hoped the extra hours would buy him time for one final walk to the tunnel. He seemed in better spirits today, or at least he was covering well enough. During the night, I had listened at his door for any sign that he was upset, but if he was, I didn't hear it. That was how we became in the East, never too happy and certainly never too sad. Compared to most others, I wasn't as good as reining in my feelings. Lately, I was a split of two strong emotions, each fighting the other to control my mood. Today might be the day for our escape or the day for our rest. I wasn't quite sure how to feel, intensely excited or intensely afraid. Mama came home shortly after Fritz and I finished breakfast and announced to the microphones that she was ill. Despite the weak tone in her voice, just one look at her assured me she was fine. She turned up the radio and then whispered in my ear that she would have to stay inside at least for the morning. Of course, this was only her excuse to delay going into work. However, it did create one problem. If she was sick, she would not risk being seen on the streets. Did you talk to Irma Gertrude? I hated to ask, but I wanted to know. Mama whispered. She only wondered why we waited so long. I will see her again, Gerda, somehow. Mama instructed Fritz and me to go to the tunnel to be sure we were okay, and then to do whatever was necessary to connect them. When that was finished, we were to come home and get her. We would have supper tonight in the West. It was everything I could do not to run to the welcome building. Fritz reminded me more than once to walk slower and to wipe such an eager expression from my face. You're like a beacon right now, he said. All someone has to do is look at you to know you're up to something. How do you do it? I asked. How can you look so casual on a day like this? Because I know what's at stake if I don't. Now relax and be calm. I was calm as a blizzard, but tried very hard not to show it. That became extra important as we approached the wall. Even from a distance, we could hear on the other side barking dogs and angry voices of Grenzers. The last thing we needed was to get their attention. Why are they here? I hissed. Had the tunnel already collapsed? Were they just waiting for us to show up? Walking like fools into a lion's den? Fritz hushed me, and then we pressed against the wall to listen. To be heard above their dogs, the officers were shouting at one another, and every so often we caught their words. Water pipes? Leak? West Germans incompetence? Investigate? They said nothing about a suspected tunnel or about someone's arrest or death. From the little we could gather, they knew water pipes ran through the corridor and blamed the sinking soil on a leakage somewhere underground. Perhaps any digging noise they'd heard was also credited to the leaking pipes, but we also caught the word investigate. They were going to dig down, and when they did, they would discover far more than a broken pipe. Fritz grabbed my arm to reassure me. We're leaving this afternoon, Fritz. They probably won't go looking before then. Maybe not, but it wasn't impossible either. At least the tunnel hadn't collapsed. That was my first thought once we entered. It may have unnerved me the first time I went underground, but now this small dirt concord was the only place I felt truly secure. The world outside was a dangerous place. That's where the Stasi and Grenzers officers hunted night and day, where gossips and tattlers could destroy lives, and where conversations in the privacy of a home were anything but private. But in this tunnel, nothing bad would happen, not unless the world figured out we were in it. As we got deeper into the tunnel, better news awaited us. Dominic was already over on his side, quietly digging. A small hole had opened up in the clay soil beneath us. Nothing that any creatures larger than a rabbit could squeeze through, but it was a start. If I went all the way down on my stomach, I could see his feet. Where's Papa? I asked Dom in a voice that was no louder than was necessary. Still securing the braces. We worked all night. There are Grenzers overhead, Fritz said. They found the sunken area and want to investigate. We know, Dominic said. We can hear their dogs. So let's dig, I said, getting on my knees. Let's dig and be out of here before they find us. We can't go much further, Dama said. Papa thinks this last connection is holding the tunnel up, like the bearing wall of a home. Then we can't open it? It was impossible. That we should have come so far just to be stopped now. Let's just try it and see what happens. Dom was always more of a tease, and he was back in his role now. Sheesh, Fritz. Has she really gone that pushy in the last 4 years? How have you managed? I sat back and I folded my arms. Pushiness was an unnecessary side effect of being the youngest, and I felt like throwing a full-scale tantrum right there to remind them of it. Fritz only chuckled and brushed his hand across the top of my head. She's worse than you can imagine, Dom. But if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be here. He was quiet, and then he said, I missed you. There was silence on the other end, then Dom's voice came in a little more than a whisper. And I missed both of you, Mama too. Papa's cooking is terrible. I knelt forward. So what can we do? Papa said we have to be patient for another couple of days until the dirt settles. No, the settling is the problem, I protested. Fritz is supposed to join the military today. If he doesn't, we can't open this up until we know what it will hold. Fritz sounded certain, but just from looking at him, I knew he was every bit as worried as I was. He didn't have 2 days left, not even one. Dom continued, Papa wants you to brace your side of the tunnel. Do anything you can to secure the dirt overhead. Once we have both sides are strong, then we will finish chipping away in the middle. I'll make mortar for the bricks, Fritz said. Gerda. To make it, I need water from the pond. I was already on my way with a bucket in my hand. And that is the end of chapter 41. Chapter 41.